All right. Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. And I am going to do my usual finagling, wrestling with Instagram, trying to go live there as well. All right. And I think we did it, Jen.
Yay.
Yay. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Happy Thursday to everyone. Okay, I just have to say, I cannot believe it's mid-September. Just saying. Like, how did that happen? Hope everyone is doing great, and I hope you're having an awesome week. Guys, I have really a phenomenal topic in store for you today. Honestly, I could not be more excited, and I'm really looking forward to learning more about this myself. But first of all, before I introduce the topic, I do want to say hello. I want to welcome everyone to Live with Lesli, and I'm Lesli Beitel, and I'm a business strategist and mentor specifically for functional and integrative medicine professionals, specifically in private practice. And I am so happy to be with you here today. And again, I'm really looking forward to today's topic. It is a juicy topic. We're going to be chatting with Jen Szymanski from Vitality Led Health about skin issues and the issue, really the connection with chronic health concerns, right? Like the gut health connection or the gut skin connection. But we're going to look at it from a functional lens. And that is really the thing that I want to drive home here. So who would have known, right? I don't know. I wouldn't have known. So anyway, let me read Jen's bio really quick so you get a sense of who she is. So Jen is a registered dietitian, integrative health and wellness coach, and root cause dermatology practitioner, specializing in functional medicine, nutrition, and chronic skin conditions. And Jen helps clients identify and address the root causes of their health issues using advanced functional testing, personalized nutrition plans, and targeted supplements. And again, welcome everyone. The topic for today's live is a functional approach to healing your skin from within. And we're going to dig into more like what this means, but my understanding is it's everything from acne, rashes, right? Eczema, right? Jen, what else does this include?
I practice looking at anything from acne, eczema, atopic dermatitis, rosacea, psoriasis. So a broad span of chronic skin conditions that really bring people sometimes to their knees. They can be very debilitating. They can make you feel isolated. They can keep people out of social situations. Some people have even stopped doing their jobs because they are just burdened with such severe symptoms and oftentimes shame from these things as well.
Right. Yeah, it can get really, really intense for sure. So, all right. So, Jen, before we dive into the nitty gritty of, your approach and, maybe share some thoughts on how people can move forward, anyone that has a friend or family member, or perhaps you yourself are struggling with said skin challenges. Tell us a little bit. It's so fascinating. How does a registered dietitian, how did you end up taking this path, right? Specializing in skin and, root cause dermatology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been a dietitian for, probably 25 plus years. I spent the first part of my career in industry. And then several years ago, through my own health concerns and health concerns within my family, decided that I wanted to bring a more proactive versus reactive approach to the things that we were struggling with. So I dove into all things functional. And I started my own practice about 2 years ago. And I have, for the past several years, and couldn't understand why, because I had never really had skin issues before, developed random weird rashes on my face. And I tried so many different things and it didn't fix them. So I was always intrigued by just what's causing this. Why do I have this? And I knew that various different topicals didn't or weren't going to solve the problem. So I had to go further within. And actually, in my practice, I had a very special client who was struggling with serious skin conditions. So I went through a webinar, I think that was hosted by either Fullscript or Rupa. And it was all about, I just did this really out of curiosity. It was all about the gut skin condition or connection. And through that, I learned about the course that is run through the Center for Integrative and Naturopathic Dermatology. And I just remember thinking, what an amazing, unique niche to be in. And I already am so interested in the skin, not only from a health perspective, but also, it's inevitable. We're all getting older, we're aging, and I like to understand what are things I can do to help protect my skin as I'm aging. So I did it because I was curious, and I actually have just become 100% wrapped up in this. I'm reading, researching all the time. I have wonderful clients, and the great thing about the clients that you treat in these situations is that they have, by the time they get to you in the integrative approach, they have tried everything, and they are so desperate for care, support, to be listened to be heard, and to find something that actually is going to work. So you're working with people that are like really motivated to make change and take things on to help their healing process.
I love that. So how would you say, for, our audience who may not be super familiar with the terminology, specifically functional nutrition, functional medicine, how would you say the functional approach to treating these chronic skin challenges, how does that differ from the more conventional method?
Right. Well, in a more conventional method, you'll go in and you'll see a dermatologist, and the dermatologist will look at you and probably be able to diagnose what's going on, whether it's acne or eczema or what have you, and maybe prescribe a medication, an antibiotic. In some conditions, they will do biologics, or topicals, but they're essentially, in most cases, treating the symptoms versus what is the underlying issue. Where is this coming from? Why do I have this? And so with a more integrative approach, just like in functional and integrative medicine and nutrition, we look to find the root cause. We look to understand, where is this coming from? Why is this happening? So that we can have a targeted way to treat it. So we treat the whole person. And this approach, I focus on the whole person. We're one body, one mind, one spirit. So all of that is connected. And really, we begin with finding the root cause, digging in, asking a lot of questions, finding a really detailed health history, running the necessary tests that we use for this, and listening to what's actually going on with the client that we are dealing with.
Okay. And do you find that the results, kind of comparing, I don't even know if you really can comment on this, but are the results better in the functional approach?
Well, what I can tell you, speaking from experience, is that I get clients who have already tried the traditional. They have gone and they have tried the topical steroids. They've tried the antibiotics. They've tried the high power stuff. And not only sometimes does it not fix the symptoms, sometimes it does. It's all individual. But oftentimes it can not only not fix it, but some people find them to be exacerbated.
That's not good.
Yeah. So with this particular focus, we're not matching a pill to the ill, so to speak, but we're trying to understand why is this happening? Where is it coming from? And so we use very targeted approaches with that. So I can tell you, based upon my experience, I don't have comparisons, but I can say my clients all come to me after they have done the traditional approach.
Got it. Okay. So they've pretty much tried everything.
They've exhausted, and they are exhausted by the time they get to me. They're exhausted, they're worn down, they don't know where else to turn, they don't know what else to do. Quality of life has been compromised, and they just want to get back to living, and they want to feel good again.
Yeah, I would imagine they're just pretty hopeless until they find you.
Yeah.
So, which is so awesome. So, how do you go about finding the root cause? Or, like, and what do you often find it to be?
Okay. Yeah. So, when it comes to skin conditions, I will oftentimes speak to people, and there's usually like two main myths, misconceptions, however you want to call them. One is that they're thinking that there's one particular food that is a trigger or is an issue that they have to remove. So many of them have come and they have done really strict, intense elimination diets. And some of them are malnourished at this point. They're eating next to nothing. They're not feeling well. And while we find that there can be a food that is a trigger, it's generally not the root cause of the situation. Some people do have legitimate IgE allergies and responses to specific foods. And some people do have sensitivities where they find that they have symptoms a couple days later, whether they've had milk and they get a stomach ache, or they've had gluten and they are feeling sluggish and digestion isn't really working well. But we find that generally food is not the root cause. And then another misconception is that if something is happening on an isolated part of my body, I have a rash on my arm, or I'm breaking out on my neck, I've got cystic acne, I have to treat that with putting something right on it. I have to treat that in isolation. And really, when we have something going on outside of the body, it's a sign that something is going on typically inside the body. It's a sign of something more systemic, some inflammation. So when we look at these individuals that come to us, we really say, okay, what is going on in the gut? And about what I would venture to say 100% of the time, there's gut dysbiosis that's happening. So, I use a GI map in my practice, and I can look at what's happening on an individual level. And those GI maps, while everyone's is different, I can find similarities and patterns, but I can say 100% of the time that there's some kind of dysbiosis happening. Okay. And that's an overgrowth of the bad, and, too much of the bad guys and not enough of the good guys. So that's something that we generally see to be a pattern within all of these folks.
Got it. So basically, we're referring to the microbiome,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
And the microbiome, being like an integral part of the whole gut. Why would a microbiome that is somewhat compromised, why would that cause skin issues?
Well, like I said,
those dots.
Yeah, well, and as I mentioned, the skin, it's the largest organ in the body, right? And our skin has its own microbiome. We have our own set of bacteria on our skin. And there's actually a bi-directional relationship between the gut and the skin. There is a gut-skin axis, which is a complex communication system that happens between the two. And our gut, that in and of itself is like an ecosystem. It's like a rainforest, right? It's got all sorts of stuff going on in there. And we have keystone bacteria species, specifically one, for example, like Akkermansia. These are really the really good goods. And if something happens to them, then everything can fall apart. And you can end up with something called, which I'm sure many people have heard, maybe some haven't, of leaky gut.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is a big problem, and it's leaky gut. We hear this term quite often. It's not only related to chronic dermatological issues, but it's related to a host of other chronic conditions. You can circle it back to diabetes or heart disease, certain kind of cancers. So it's something that's really a problem for many of us in general. And actually, our Western lifestyle really sets us up for leaky gut. This can really harm our gut health, where we have lack of movement, poor diet, overuse of antibiotics, medications, exposure to environmental toxins. So we need to be proactive about doing things to prevent this from happening, or have plans in place when we do have a leaky gut to help heal it, to restore it, to rebalance it. And about 80% of our immune system is manufactured by what is going on in the gut. So when we have a leaky gut, that mucosal lining, that very protective mucosal lining in the gut, becomes eroded, and that makes us vulnerable to undesirable and even potentially things getting into our bloodstream, like food, bacteria. And this can result in chronic inflammation. And then that is where we see, and it shows up on our skin. Cytokines are released, and then we have these chronic skin conditions. And so that's what leads us to kind of say, like, the gut is the root cause of these things. And to help heal the skin, we need to heal the gut. We need to restore balance to the gut.
Okay. So it's so fascinating because for a long time, I always kind of heard, like, stop drinking dairy. Dairy is the cause of acne. But you're saying it's not one food that is leading to specifically skin issues or acne. What would you say it is in the Western diet? Like, is there a common link here?
Yeah, well, just to kind of circle back to dairy, usually when I start plans with people, I will remove dairy and gluten.
Okay.
Simply because they are inflammatory in nature, and they don't really play well with the gut and the skin. So I do oftentimes just take those out of the equation for a period of time. And then we'll see if we can reintroduce them back. And for some other skin conditions, there are other food triggers to be mindful of. But I would say those two oftentimes come out in the very beginning just because of their inflammatoriness in nature. In the Western diet, I would say the lack of fiber that we eat is a real contributor to poor gut health, leading to these chronic skin conditions. Getting fiber is really a key to good gut and overall health. And in the days of the hunter-gatherer, they were taking in 50 to 100 grams of fiber a day because they were eating what they were bringing in, and there was no acne in that period of time, right? They weren't eating processed foods, highly refined carbohydrates, sugars, like, in large quantities, or anything that wasn't a natural sugar. So fiber is a big problem. Like I said, 50 to 100 grams was about what they were consuming. And now the average American gets about 10 to 15 grams a day. So a really small amount that doesn't help. We need to have adequate fiber to help feed that microbiome and have a healthy gut barrier. I recommend to my clients, and it can seem exhausting and impossible at first, but that they take in about 35 grams of fiber a day. And if they're on that lower end of the spectrum when they start, I ask them to track it in the beginning of our time together. We work up to it because, like I said, that can be overwhelming and seem impossible. And also, if you just jump right into 35 grams of fiber per day, you may have some other issues that don't feel good.
Yeah.
So we work on that. And that's the beauty of the work that you do with this. It's from a holistic integrative sense. It is treating the gut with however we work to do that, topical supplements, etc. But teaching people good nutrition is also a part of this. So we get to work on the whole person. I coach them in if you have, when you sit down to a meal, if half your plate is covered with vegetables, then you're in good shape. So we try and coach on how can you do that. And, there's other sources for getting fiber beyond just like plain fruits and vegetables, which are wonderful. There's such an array of those out there. And then if you consider what's in season, you can really hone in on whole nutrient dense foods, but you can also eat foods like seeds, nuts, herbs and spices even have some fiber in it. So it's looking at the whole of what you're consuming on a daily basis and ensuring that those foods have fiber in them. I also encourage clients not only to get that 35 grams of fiber in a day, but to get 30 different types of fruits and vegetables a week. Another, they look at me and their eyes get buggy, like
How
how
is it possible?
yeah. And so I tell them, like, if you can think of, if you're, shopping at the grocery store and look at your cart, and does my cart cover every color of the rainbow?
Mhm.
Do I have, something red, orange, yellow? Go around, do your shopping at the end, take a check of that. And if you don't, what color do you need to add to that? Like if you're running low, or you don't have a purple in there, go grab a head of purple cauliflower or purple grapes, or an eggplant or whatever, and ensuring that you like it. But just, that's a way to ensure that you're getting those 30 a day, I'm sorry, a week, is just, looking at the color of the rainbow. And like I said, packaged and processed foods, they'll kill the good bacteria. Too much sugar, and highly refined foods, if you can,
Mm.
eliminate them from the diet. And I always, if it's possible from a financial perspective and from an accessibility standpoint, if you can buy organic, and if you can't, make sure that you're going home and really doing a good wash of your produce, because glyphosate is out there. It gets
Mhm.
sprayed,
Mhm.
and glyphosate can really be detrimental to the microbiome. So we
Oh,
need to be cautious of that type of toxin as well.
okay. Yeah, that is not one that would have popped into my head. So thanks for that reminder.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one. Okay, so sugar, excess sugar. What about like seed oils and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think a good rule of thumb is to ensure that you're using good, clean seed oils. And when I recommend to my clients, I recommend olive, avocado, and coconut oil. Those are the big ones that I recommend that they use in their cooking, and baking.
Yeah. I'm looking at labels more and more.
Hmm.
Shock.
Hmm.
So that I just kind of assumed were fine, like even some nut butters, to tell you the truth.
Hmm.
And I'm really kind of surprised at what I'm seeing. Like, almond butter with like beautiful organic labeling that has cane sugar
Yes.
mixed, right?
The lecithins that they add to them, the
Yeah,
emulsifiers. Yeah.
like,
Hmm.
the so-called healthy nut butters. And I'm like, wow, I'm kind of amazed at what's happening there. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think the least amount of ingredients that you can have,
Mhm.
had it in your food, or in the foods that you choose. And there are some things that are processed that we do consume. I mean, I have them in my house as well, but being conscious of the label and the ingredients that are in them, and the particular type of oils. Like, if something has a canola oil in it, a soybean oil, I put it right back down.
Yep.
Um, so just being conscious of those types of things. So for that, just for general good cellular health as well, I would say avoid. But everything's connected anyways. And all of that stuff can lead to leaky gut. It all goes back to the gut.
It's challenging if you want to buy, and I'm, like quote unquote healthy foods that are, I guess either they are processed, right? Like
Hmm.
bars and things like that. So many of them have
Yeah.
just kind of scary ingredients. So,
Yeah. And we are a society of convenience, right? I mean, we have to find ways to do it in our house too. With our son, we have to get him off to sports. We got to get off to school. We don't have, it requires pre-planning, obviously. But if you do need to, and if you can't be perfect all the time, which who can be,
sure.
do your best, do
Mhm.
your best, and read the labels and try and make the smartest choices.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And don't assume just because something looks healthy on the
Right.
label,
That it
like
is.
that's the big shock to me,
Yeah.
especially lately. I don't know why I
Yeah.
should be shocked, right, at this
Well,
point, but
and I think too, being conscious of where your foods are sourced.
Mhm.
If you have an understanding of that too, like with meats, if you can do the hormone antibiotic free, that stuff gets into us. We
Mhm.
consume what they had, and so we are bringing that into our bodies, and we need to, be aware that that can have an effect on us. and our health as well.
Absolutely. So, before I forget, I wanted to ask you with the fiber topic. So, what are your thoughts on fiber supplementation
Mhm.
to
Um,
bump that number up?
yeah, if I have clients, and like I said, I ask them to track.
Mhm,
Um, and if they're tracking and they just can't do it, I will recommend a fiber supplement.
mhm.
I also will, like when I have a patient client that comes back that has low akkermansia. I mean, the gut is just leaky. There, if I need to give them specific supplements to help those good bacteria proliferate, I will add a fiber supplement. So if it is necessary and if it can't be achieved through diet, then I absolutely will. But I always try and get them to do it through the diet if
Okay.
possible.
So, like, let's talk about Akkermansia since you mentioned it a couple times. So,
Mhm.
that one seems like it's really wiped out in a lot of people,
It
right?
is.
It's
Yeah.
so it seems like it's really common.
Yep.
So, in your mind, would you supplement for that particular
Yes. Yep.
species?
I would.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. And the
okay.
GI map tells me that.
Okay, so you would supplement for the good bacteria that's wiped out,
Yes,
and you
exactly.
would simultaneously increase fiber so
Mhm.
that okay,
I
got it.
might add some butyrate, anything that helps with that. I might add some like a poly prebiotic supplement, or ask them to increase, those prebiotic foods.
Okay.
And we would go through that kind of stuff. But that would be one of the things that the GI map is telling me. I've seen Akkermansia low in many of my eczema
Mhm.
patients.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, so we go through, but it's something that I'm kind of look at, and I'm like, oh, there's low Akkermansia, leaky gut for sure. So we
Okay.
have targeted approach to try and get that number back up.
Okay. And
Mhm.
yeah, and then do you retest?
Yeah,
Just
I mean,
a couple
it,
few months later to see if it took?
yeah, we can
Mhm.
if the client is wants to do that, but the
Right.
results are in what's happened, the transformation, right? Oftentimes, like you don't have to, because you see like the acne's cleared, the eczema's cleared, or there's been like huge resolution in symptoms. Um, so it can be done, but if you have had successful treatment, if your patient has been compliant and they're seeing the results, then testing isn't always necessary. Now, if we get somewhere where we feel stuck, we're trying things, progress is happening, maybe not as quickly as we want it to, or in the fashion that we wanted to, then I will maybe suggest. But most of the time, if it's showing up for itself, then we don't have to do that.
Okay. Yeah, that's such a great point, right?
Yeah, it is. It is an investment on behalf of the client, and so you try and keep those superfluous, I just want to know costs down, and you keep the cost that are necessary, where they have to be. But yeah,
Right,
it's
like the things that are gonna maybe change the course of your
right,
treatment
exactly.
plan, right? Okay, that makes a ton of sense to me. Are there any other environmental factors that we wanna talk about that are leading to these challenging chronic skin issues?
Yeah, for sure. So there's something that we call the total body burden. And if you can imagine that you have a bucket in front of you, and um, we're constantly filling that bucket up day after day with things that are maybe unfavorable to our bodies, chemicals on our skin, air pollution that we're breathing. If we're not washing our fruits and vegetables, if we're taking in certain kind of medications, antibiotics, anything that's a toxicant to our body. So at a certain point, we add these. Our body's like working and working and working and trying to deal with them. The bucket just starts to spill over. And then we end up with these conditions, whether it's eczema, acne, um, gas, bloating, however your overflowing bucket shows up for you. We need to lower that burden. We need to lower the threshold. And what happens is that these toxins can also degrade that very protective mucosal layer of the gut, and you can end up with leaky gut as well, chronic inflammation. these toxicants enter the bloodstream. And so then we, again, it can show up on our skin. And so, some of the big ones are antibiotics, medications, chronic consumption of alcohol. So some of these are big contributors to leaky gut. Antibiotics, sometimes we really truly need them. If we have, a condition, an infection, something that we really need to treat. But there's, they will kill off the good bacteria. They'll kill off the bad bacteria that you want killed off, but then there's some collateral damage. You have them killing off some of those good bacteria that are protective to the gut microbiome and protecting the integrity of the skin, etc. So you really want to be careful with those. Chronic consumption of alcohol. I'm not talking like if you have 1 to 2 drinks a week, or, that you're enjoying a glass of wine or a spirit occasionally, but chronic consumption of alcohol can also degrade that mucosal layer. Chronic use of medications like Advil, ibuprofen. Of course, if you have an ache or a pain and you need to use that, then, by all means. But if you're using it day after day after day, this can also break down that mucosal layer. So all of these things can contribute to leaky gut. So we really want to be mindful of the environmental triggers that we have, or the way we're treating ourselves, or what we're surrounding ourselves with, so that we can maybe lessen that burden, lower the load, and be kind to our gut.
Yeah, makes sense. So what would you say your top tips are for healthy skin?
Oh gosh. Well, I would say for sure that fiber. Anything that promotes a healthy microbiome. If I know that I am healthy and clean from within, it should show up externally. So I would say, focusing on that fiber, getting the 35 grams per day, eating a wide array of fruits and vegetables, eating just a clean, diverse diet that really feeds our microbiome, nutrient dense, minimizing the highly processed foods, minimizing the sugar, kind of looking at an anti-inflammatory diet. What does that look like? What are those foods? Omega-3s, nuts, seeds, herbs and spices, turmeric, all those kind of things that when we think of anti-inflammatory, we can utilize that in our diet for promoting healthy skin. Staying hydrated, drinking lots of water, and if you want to add some special stuff to that, whether you infuse it with fruit or herbal teas, are always really good options to add variety to your water consumption a day. So I think you can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on skincare, but unless you're like taking care of within, that's not going to really make a difference.
That is so true.
Yeah.
So good. Such a great reminder. I love that. All right. So as we kind of start to wrap up, is there one piece of advice that you wish everyone would take?
I think beyond what I just kind of shared about the diet, I would say, and I'm sure there's I would guess a lot of women in the audience. And for those men too, it's the same thing. We can become obsessed with skincare in our culture, anti-aging and fighting wrinkles and collagen and this, that, and the other. One thing I think is important, women average about 120 chemicals on their skin every day. For men, it's definitely much lower. And I would say if you're interested in skincare, read the ingredients, look at the label and those as well. If it's something that you would consume, then it's probably okay. Like if you're going to put it on, would you put it in is often the question that I ask myself. So look for those that have natural ingredients in them. And then, like I said, you don't have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on your skincare. So I'd say a diet and skincare that looks like your diet is great.
That's so interesting. I've never thought of it that way, but I love it. All right. So Jen, if we've got people in our audience who would like to learn more, or perhaps there's some folks that are listening or are going to listen to the recording who would like to connect with you.
Yes, I love to.
Where can we send?
Yeah, I'd love to hear from you. You can visit my website. It's vitalityledhealth.com.
Okay.
And there you can, reach a contact. You fill out a contact form. I'll get back in touch with you. My email address is jen@vitalityledhealth.com. So those are really the two best ways to learn more and to connect with me. And like I said, I'd love to hear from you if you have questions or want to learn more.
Okay, guys. So here is Jen's website, Vitality, and I spelled that correctly, right, Jen?
Yep.
Okay. VitalityLedHealth.com. So I think you said you have an ebook, right?
Yes.
If you go
Yes.
to your website, is it visible, like right when you
It
land on
is. It's right in the top of the homepage. It's the simple strategies for radiant skin, and that focuses on diet and fiber. Some of the stuff
Okay.
we covered at the end.
Oh, good. Yay. Okay. So that sounds really super helpful. And then if you want to reach out to Jen directly, she shared her email, which is jen@vitalityledhealth.com.
Yep.
So thank you from Gloria, who commented on just the level of helpfulness that Jen shared today. So hope that everyone got a lot of value from our conversation today. I know I did. And thanks, Jen. I really appreciate you being willing to share your wisdom. And again, to our audience, I'm going to put this up one more time. Make sure if you want to grab her ebook, which sounds really interesting, go ahead and head on over to vitalityledhealth.com. You should see it right there. You can download it. And I think that will give you a nice starting point.
Yeah.
If you want to dig in or if you have additional questions, feel free to reach out at jen@vitalityledhealth.com.
Yes, please do.
All right. Thanks again, Jen. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for
Thanks so
everyone.
much, Leslie.
Yeah, it was great to see you.
You too.
Enjoyed it. All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.